Julian Hartwell stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Boston penthouse, watching the city lights flicker against the October darkness. At 42, he had built an empire, restoring historic properties across New England, turning forgotten architecture into million-dollar landmarks. His success was undeniable. His loneliness was quiet but constant. The reflection staring back at him showed a man others called distinguished. Salt and pepper hair, sharp jawline, tailored suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. But Julian saw something else. He saw a fortress built around a heart that had forgotten how to trust, the catalyst his business partner. Owen Fletcher sat in the leather armchair behind him, nursing a scotch. Owen was the only person who could read Julian's silences. "You've been standing there for 20 minutes?" Owen said. "Either you're practicing for a statue competition, or something's eating at you." Julian turned slowly. "Do you think anyone in my life actually sees me?" Owen raised an eyebrow. "That's a heavy question for a Tuesday night. I'm serious." Julian moved to the bar cart, poured himself a drink he wouldn't finish. "Every woman I've dated, every relationship. There's always this moment when I realize they're in love with what I represent, not who I am. So what are you going to do about it?" Julian's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "I'm going to find out who they really are when nothing stands in their way." The 4 women the next morning, Julian sat in his study with a list of 4 names. Each represented a different piece of his world, a different possibility. Celeste Monroe was first. She moved through Boston's elite social circles like royalty, blonde and brilliant, with a smile that opened doors and a reputation for turning parties into legendary events. They had dated for 6 months, though Julian suspected she loved the idea of them more than the reality. Diana Foster was his executive assistant, efficient and unshakable. For 3 years, she had managed every detail of his complicated life with precision that bordered on telepathic. She wore power suits like armor and spoke in perfectly organized sentences. He had never seen her flustered. Natasha Pierce was a rising star in event management. Bold, creative, magnetic. She had orchestrated the launch party for his latest restoration project, turning it into the most talked-about evening of the season. She called him Jules, which nobody else dared to do, and her ambition burned bright enough to light entire rooms. Then there was Lillian Brooks, his housekeeper, though that title felt inadequate. She sang old folk songs while dusting, left handwritten notes about the weather, and treated his penthouse like a home instead of a showpiece. She never asked for anything beyond her modest salary, never lingered where she wasn't needed, but somehow her absence always felt louder than her presence. Julian stared at the 4 names and made his decision, the cards. Ardelty arranged private meetings with each woman over 2 days. No explanations, just simple invitations. Each envelope was identical, containing a sleek black card with unlimited credit and a handwritten note. Use this however you wish. No rules, no expectations. Celeste arrived first, dressed in a cream cashmere dress that probably cost $3,000. She settled onto his sofa with practiced grace. "Julian, darling, you're being mysterious." Her voice carried that breathy quality she used when she wanted something. He handed her the envelope. She opened it, and her green eyes widened just slightly before she composed herself. "Is this real?" "Completely. It's yours to use as you see fit." She turned the card over in her manicured fingers. "No catch?" "No catch." A slow smile spread across her face. "Well then, I suppose I should start thinking bigger." She kissed his cheek, leaving a trace of expensive perfume. He departed with the card tucked into her designer handbag. Diana's meeting was at his office. She entered with her usual tablet and coffee. Ready for business. "You said this wasn't work-related," she noted. Settling into the chair across from his desk, "It's not." Julian slid the envelope across the polished wood. Diana opened it methodically, read the note, examined the card. Her expression remained neutral, but he noticed her fingers tighten slightly. "I don't understand the purpose." "There is no purpose. Just freedom." She met his gaze directly. "Nothing is ever without purpose, Julian. Especially with you. Maybe I'm trying something different." Diana carefully placed the card back in the envelope. "I'll consider how to use it." She stood, smoothed her skirt, and paused at the door. Thank you. I think Natasha practically bounced into his penthouse that evening. All energy and enthusiasm. Sounded serious on the phone. Did someone die, or are we celebrating something fabulous? Julian handed her the envelope. Open it. She ripped it open with zero ceremony, gasped dramatically, and then laughed. Julian Hartwell, are you trying to spoil me? I'm trying to see what you do with possibility. Her eyes sparkled with ideas already forming. Oh, honey, you have no idea what I can do with this. She hugged him fiercely. You're about to find out just how magical I can make things. The final meeting happened almost by accident. Lily was finishing her shift, humming as she watered the plants in his study. Julian cleared his throat. Lily, do you have a moment? She turned, surprised. Of course, Mr. Hartwell. Something wrong with the cleaning? Nothing's wrong. He held out the last envelope. This is for you. She wiped her hands on her apron before taking it. What is it? Open it and see. Lily carefully opened the envelope, pulled out the card, read the note. Her face went through several emotions. Confusion, disbelief, concern. Mr. Hartwell, I can't accept this. Why not? Because I didn't earn it. I don't need it. This is too much. It's a gift. No strings attached. She studied his face with those warm brown eyes that always seemed to see more than they should. You're testing something. Maybe I'm just being generous. Lily folded the note carefully. Generosity usually has a reason, but I'll keep it. And I'll think real carefully about what matters most. The waiting game that night, Julian stood at his windows again. The city spreading below him like a puzzle waiting to be solved. 4 cards distributed. For women, each holding unlimited power, now came the hardest part. Watching without interfering, Owen appeared with fresh drinks. So the experiment begins. It's not an experiment. It's just truth-seeking. Truth-seeking with unlimited credit cards. That's one way to do it. Owen handed him a glass. What do you think you'll find? Julian took a long sip. Honestly, I have no idea. That's what scares me, good Owen said. Fear means you're finally doing something real, as the night deepened. Julian couldn't shake one thought. Somewhere out there. For women held pieces of a puzzle he hadn't realized he was trying to solve. The question was whether any of them held the piece that fit his heart. Julian had told himself he wouldn't monitor the cards. He lasted exactly 3 days before calling his financial advisor, Thomas Bergen, who handled the accounts. I need transaction reports, Julian said, pacing his office. Thomas hesitated. Are you sure? You said this was about trust. It's about understanding. There's a difference. The reports arrived by secure email within the hour. Julian opened them slowly, like unwrapping something fragile. What he found made him lean back in his chair. It's processing. Celeste's choices, the first charges appeared within hours of receiving the card. Celeste had booked a private villa in Martha's Vineyard, hired a personal photographer, and purchased an entirely new wardrobe from boutiques Julian recognized from magazine spreads. The amounts were staggering, but what caught his attention was the pattern. Every purchase came with social media posts. Hashtags like blessed, living my Epps life, gratitude filled her captions. Photos of champagne glasses, sunset views, designer labels. Her follower count had jumped by 15,000 in 5 days. Owen reviewed the printouts over lunch at their usual Harborside restaurant. She's building a brand. She's building an image, Julian corrected. Same thing these days. Owen stabbed at his salad. Question is, does it bother you? Julian watched boats drift past the window. It bothers me that she never called to say thank you. She just started spending. Did you want gratitude or authenticity? That question lingered long after lunch ended. Diana's transactions told a different story. She had enrolled in an executive MBA program at Harvard, purchased a complete professional wardrobe, subtle but expensive, hired a career coach, signed up for public speaking workshops. There were also smaller purchases, a gym membership, therapy sessions, a subscription to a meal delivery service. Everything pointed towards self-improvement, toward building something sustainable. Julian found himself in her office doorway one afternoon. Diana looked up from her computer, unsurprised. "You're here about the card," she said. "I'm here because you haven't missed a day of work." "Why would I?" She closed her laptop. "The card doesn't change my responsibilities. Most people would take time off, travel, celebrate." Anna stood, moving to the window. "I don't need celebration, Julian. I need evolution. That card represents possibility, and I'm using it to become someone who doesn't need your card, your job, or your validation to succeed." The words hit harder than she probably intended. Julian felt something shift in his chest. "Are you planning to leave?" "I'm planning to choose. There's a difference." She turned to face him. "You gave me freedom, remember? Freedom includes the option to walk away with dignity instead of desperation." He had no response to that. Diana returned to her work, and Julian returned to his office feeling strangely hollow. Natasha's grand vision, Natasha's spending, made headlines before. She had booked the historic Fairmont Copley Plaza ballroom, hired a full orchestra, commissioned ice sculptures, and sent invitations to every influential person in Boston's philanthropic circles. The event was called the Hartwell Foundation Gala, though Julian had never established such a foundation. When he called her, Natasha answered on the second ring, breathless with excitement. "Jules, I was just about to call you. Wait until you hear what we're doing." "Natasha, you used my name without permission. I used your generosity to create something amazing. This gala will raise hundreds of thousands for youth programs. Your name attached to that kind of giving. That's legacy, baby. I never agreed to this. You gave me unlimited resources and told me to use them however I wished. I'm using them to make you look like the hero you obviously want to be. Otherwise, why give away black cards?" Julian sat down slowly. "This isn't about looking heroic. Then what's it about? Because from where I'm standing, you're a wealthy man playing God with people's dreams to see how they react. At least I'm trying to make something good come from it." Julian stared at his phone, her words echoing uncomfortably. Was she right? Was this entire thing just an elaborate manipulation dressed up as generosity? Lily's quiet impact, Lily's transactions were the smallest in dollar amounts, but somehow felt the largest in weight. She had paid off medical bills for 3 families in her neighborhood, bought new playground equipment for the community center, funded after-school art programs, purchased winter coats for kids who needed them. There were no photos, no announcements, no social media presence at all. Julian only knew, because the financial reports showed the recipients and purposes. He found her one morning at the community center in Dorchester, a neighborhood far from his usual circles. The building was old but clean, filled with children's laughter and the smell of fresh paint. Lily was on her hands and knees, helping a little boy glue cotton balls onto construction paper clouds. She looked up when Julian's shadow fell across their workspace. "Mr. Hartwell," wiping glue on her jeans. "Didn't expect to see you here. I wanted to understand what you've been doing." She glanced at the children around them. "Can we talk outside?" They stepped into the autumn sunshine. Leaves skittered across the parking lot. Lily crossed her arms, not defensive, just waiting. "Yeah. You've been helping people," Julian said. "That was always the plan. You could have helped yourself first. Travel, buy a house, anything." Lily shook her head. "I have enough for myself. These folks don't. Your card gave me the power to fix that, so I did. Simple as that. It's not simple. Most people would have chosen differently. Most people aren't me." Her voice was gentle but firm. "You gave me a tool, Julian. I used it the way tools should be used, to build something better than what was there before." He looked at the community center, at the mural some kid had painted on the side wall, at the basketball hoop with a net that actually had all its strings. "You didn't take anything for yourself. I took peace of mind. I took the ability to sleep knowing I made a difference. That's worth more than any vacation or fancy car." She studied his face. "You look troubled. I'm realizing this test says more about me than it does about any of you." Lily smiled sadly. "Tests usually do." The unraveling that evening, Julian received an email from an investigative journalist named Rebecca Shaw. The subject line read, "Questions about the Hartwell card experiment." His blood went cold. He opened it. "Mr. Hartwell, I'm writing a story about your recent distribution of unlimited credit cards for women in your life. Sources describe it as a social experiment or a loyalty test. I'd like to get your comment before publication. The story runs in 3 days. Julian called Owen immediately. We have a problem. By midnight, they had traced the leak to someone at the financial company. Someone who saw the unusual transactions and sold the story. Julian sat in his study, head in his hands. You need to get ahead of this, Owen said. Control the narrative. Can't control something I don't understand myself. Then figure it out fast. Because in 72 hours, this becomes public. And those 4 women are going to be dragged through speculation and judgment they didn't ask for. Julian thought about Celeste's social media empire, Diana's careful plans, Natasha's gala, and Lily's quiet generosity. Each woman had made choices that revealed something true. But now those choices would be dissected by strangers, turned into entertainment, reduced to clickbait. He had done this. His need for answers had put them all at risk. Confronting reality the next morning, Julian did something he had avoided. He looked at himself honestly. Not the reflection in the window, but the man behind the reflection. What he saw made him uncomfortable. He had given those cards claiming to seek truth, but really he had been trying to control truth, to manufacture it in laboratory conditions where he could observe safely from behind glass. He had treated human hearts like variables in an equation. Owen found him still sitting there at noon. Have you eaten? I've been thinking dangerous activity for you lately. Julian looked up. I need to talk to them. All of them. Before this story breaks. And say what? The truth. That I was scared and lonely and didn't know how to tell if someone could love me without the money getting in the way. That I made a mistake wrapping up my fear in a psychological experiment. I stood. That I'm sorry. Oh, that's a start. But Julian, you need to understand something. Apologizing won't erase what you did. Some of them might not forgive you. Some might walk away. I know. Julian grabbed his jacket. But at least they'll walk away knowing the truth. As he headed for the door, Owen called after him. Which one are you most afraid of losing? Julian stopped but didn't turn around. The answer was already clear, had probably been clear from the beginning. He just hadn't been ready to admit it. The one who never asked me for anything, he said quietly. Outside, Boston was bright with afternoon sun, indifferent to the mess he had created. Julian climbed into his car, pulled up Lily's number, and pressed call. She answered on the 3rd ring. Mr. Hartwell? Lily, I need to talk to you. And Celeste, Diana, and Natasha. Together, before something happens that I can't take back. There was a long pause. Then, what did you do, Julian? Something foolish. Something I need to make right. Another pause. When and where? Tomorrow. My penthouse, please. I'll be there, Lily said. But Julian, whatever this is, you better be ready to face it head on. No more games. No more tests. Just truth. Just truth, he repeated. I promise. After she hung up, Julian sat in his car watching people walk past on the sidewalk. Regular people with regular problems, living regular lives. He had so much money and so little wisdom. Maybe it was time to learn which one actually mattered. Julian spent the night before the meeting preparing words he kept discarding. Every speech sounded hollow. Every explanation felt like another manipulation. By dawn, he gave up on scripts and decided to simply tell the truth. Messy and uncomfortable as it might be, Owen arrived early to help set up. They arranged chairs in the living room, facing the windows where morning light poured across Boston. No barriers, no desks to hide behind. Just open space and nowhere to retreat. You ready for this? Owen asked, pouring coffee neither of them would drink. No, but that's probably appropriate. Julian adjusted a chair for the 3rd time. I destroyed something before I even understood what it was. B. Or maybe you're about to build something real for the first time. The doorbell rang at exactly 10 o'clock. Diana arrived first, punctual as always, dressed in a navy suit that meant business. She took in the setup with one sweeping glance. This feels like an intervention. In a way, it is, Julian admitted. Celeste arrived moments later in oversized sunglasses and a camel coat that probably cost more than most people's cars. She removed the sunglasses slowly, revealing eyes that had lost some of their sparkle. "I saw the email from that journalist," she said without preamble. "So this is damage control." "This is honesty," Julian corrected. Natasha burst through the door with her usual energy, but it felt forced. "Well, this is cozy. Are we forming a support group? Survivors of Hartwell's heart?" The attempt at humor fell flat. She settled onto the sofa, crossing her legs defensively. They waited in uncomfortable silence. Minutes stretched. Julian checked his phone twice before the doorbell finally rang again. Lily stood in the hallway, wearing simple jeans and a green sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. No makeup, no armor. Just her. "Sorry I'm late. The bus was delayed." "You took the bus?" Celeste's voice carried disbelief. "You have an unlimited credit card." "The bus works fine," Lily said quietly, stepping inside. The confession when everyone was seated, Julian remained standing. His hands felt empty, useless. He shoved them in his pockets. "Thank you for coming. I know you all have questions, and you deserve answers." He took a breath. 3 weeks ago, I gave each of you a black card with unlimited credit. I told you it was a gift with no strings, no expectations. That was a lie. The room went still. Even Natasha stopped fidgeting. It was a test. I wanted to see who you really were when money wasn't a barrier. I wanted to understand if anyone in my life saw me as more than a bank account or a business opportunity. His voice caught slightly. I was scared and lonely, and instead of being honest about that, I turned my fear into an experiment with your lives. Diana spoke first, her voice measured. "You manipulated us. Yes. You observed our choices like we were subjects in a study. Yes. And now a journalist is about to expose all of this publicly, turning our private decisions into entertainment." Julian met her eyes. "Yes. And I'm sorry. More sorry than I know how to express." Celeste laughed bitterly. "Sorry doesn't cover it, Julian. Do you know what I've built in the last 3 weeks? I have brand partnerships forming, sponsorship deals on the table. My entire platform is based on this generous blessing that turns out to be a psychological manipulation. When this story breaks, I'm ruined." "I'll make a statement," Julian said quickly. "I'll take full responsibility. I'll make it clear that you didn't know, that this was entirely my doing." "Your statement won't matter." Celeste stood pacing. "The internet doesn't care about nuance. I'll be the shallow influencer who took the rich man's money and posted sunset pictures. That's the story they'll tell." Natasha leaned forward. "And I'll be the opportunist who threw a gala using someone else's name and money. Never mind that we're actually raising real funds for real kids. The narrative will be about my ambition, not the good we're doing." "I know," Julian said helplessly. "I know I've hurt all of you and I can't fix it. But I wanted you to hear it from me first before the story breaks." "You deserved that much." Diana stood slowly. "What did you learn, Julian? From your little experiment, what grand insights did you gain that made violating our trust worthwhile?" He looked at each of them in turn. "I learned that I don't know anything about love or loyalty. I learned that the walls I built to protect myself just made me a prisoner. And I learned that the person I should have been testing was myself." Individual reckonings, Celeste moved to the windows, arms wrapped around herself. When she spoke, her voice was softer than before. I knew what I was doing, you know. Building a brand, chasing followers, creating this perfect life online. I told myself it was strategy, but really I was just as scared as you. Scared that without the image, there's nothing interesting about me at all. Your test just gave me resources to become more of what I already was. I can't even be angry, because you showed me something I didn't want to see." She walked to the door, paused with her hand on the handle. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Julian. I really do. But it won't be with me." It never was. The door closed quietly behind her. Natasha stood next. "I'm not apologizing for the gala. Those kids are getting art supplies and music lessons because of what I built. Yes, I used your name, and yes, I probably should have asked. But you gave me power, and I used it to create something meaningful." She grabbed her bag. "The difference between you and me is that I'm not afraid of ambition. You should try it sometime. Might be less exhausting than all this soul-searching. She left with less grace than Celeste, but more fire. Diana remained seated, studying Julian with those analytical eyes that missed nothing. I'm not angry, she said finally. Disappointed? Yes. Hurt, definitely. But not angry. Why not? Because you did me a favor. That card showed me I've been waiting for you to notice me, to see me as more than an assistant, to choose me. But I was choosing you by default, staying comfortable instead of risking growth. She stood, smoothing her skirt. I start my MBA next month. I've already given notice, effective in 2 weeks. Your test freed me, just not in the way you intended. Diana, wait, no. Her voice was firm, but not cruel. You don't get to keep me now that you've realized what you're losing. That's not how this works. I deserve someone who chooses me first, not as a consolation prize after everyone else leaves. She walked past him, stopped at the door. For what it's worth, I hope you figure it out. You're not a bad man, Julian. Just a confused one. Then she was gone too. The one who stoddenly Lily remained, sitting quietly in her chair by the window. She hadn't moved, hadn't spoken. Just watched everything unfold with those patient eyes. Julian sank into the chair across from her, suddenly exhausted. You're still here. Seems like it. Why? Lily tilted her head thoughtfully. Because I already knew. Julian blinked. What? That it was a test. I'm not naive, Julian. Nobody hands out unlimited credit cards for no reason, especially not to their housekeeper. I figured you were either testing me or having some kind of crisis. Turned out to be both, and you stayed anyway. I stayed because what I did with that card had nothing to do with you. Those families needed help. Those kids needed supplies. Your motivations didn't change their needs. She leaned forward. But I also stayed because I wanted to see if you'd figure it out. Figure what out? That you can't test your way into trust. That love isn't something you prove with experiments or buy with black cards. It's something you risk, something you choose, something you build slowly with honesty and time. Julian felt something crack open in his chest. I don't know how to do that, I know. Lily's voice was kind. But that's okay. Nobody does it first. You just start. How? She stood, walked to where he sat, and held out her hand. Not romantic, not dramatic. Just an offering. Start by being honest. By showing up. By doing the work without knowing the outcome, she smiled. By being willing to look foolish and scared and human. Julian took her hand, felt the calluses from hard work, the warmth of genuine connection. I think I've been foolish and scared this entire time. Welcome to being human. It's uncomfortable, but at least it's real. The aftermath of the story broke 2 days later, exactly as Rebecca Shaw had promised. The headlines were brutal. Boston Millionaire's loyalty test backfires. For women, for cards. One massive manipulation. When trust becomes a transaction. Julian held a press conference that afternoon. No prepared statement, no PR team managing the message. Just him, a microphone, and the truth. 3 weeks ago, I made a mistake, he began. I gave 4 women unlimited credit cards and told them it was a gift. It was actually a test, one born from my own insecurity and fear. I violated their trust, used their lives as an experiment, and caused harm to people who deserved better. He looked directly into the cameras. Celeste Monroe, Diana Foster, Natasha Pierce, and Lillian Brooks are not characters in my story. They're real people who made real choices, and those choices revealed more about my failures than anything else. I take full responsibility for the pain I've caused, and I'm sorry. The questions came fast and harsh. Julian answered them all honestly, even when the answers made him look worse. When it was over, Owen met him backstage. That was either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. The internet's already divided. Half think you're a manipulative villain, half think you're a fool who learned a lesson. Nobody thinks you're a hero? Julian smiled tiredly. Good, I'm not one. New beginnings weeks passed. The story faded from headlines, replaced by newer scandals. Celeste's follower count actually grew as she pivoted to authentic content about recovering from public embarrassment. Diana sent a polite email from Harvard, wishing him well. Natasha's gala raised $300,000. She carefully removed the Hartwell name from all future events, and Lily kept showing up. Not every day, not in the dramatic way movies suggest. But she appeared at the community center when Julian volunteered there on Saturdays. She accepted his invitation to coffee, then to dinner. Then to a long walk through Boston Common where they talked about everything except money and tests and cards. One evening, autumn gave way to early winter. They sat on a bench watching children play in the first snow. "I sold the penthouse," Julian said quietly. Lily turned to him surprised. "Why?" "Because it wasn't a home. It was a monument to success I didn't earn emotionally. I bought a smaller place in Dorchester. Near the community center, that's a big change. I'm learning that big changes are necessary sometimes. I'm also learning that love isn't something you test or prove. It's something you build slowly through showing up and being honest and doing the work." Lily smiled. "Took you long enough. I'm a slow learner. Lucky for you, I'm patient." They sat in comfortable silence as snowflakes drifted down, catching in Lily's hair like tiny stars. Julian reached for her hand, and this time when she took it, it felt like a beginning instead of an answer. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" "For seeing me when I couldn't see myself. For staying when you had every reason to leave. For teaching me that the best things in life can't be bought or tested, only chosen." Lily squeezed his hand. "You're welcome. But Julian, you need to understand something. This isn't a happy ending. It's just a beginning. A real relationship takes work, communication, patience. Are you ready for that?" He met her eyes, saw the kindness there, but also the strength. The unwillingness to settle for anything less than genuine partnership. "I'm ready to try. And if I mess up, which I probably will, I'm ready to own it and do better. That's all anyone can ask." As they walked home through the snow-dusted streets, Julian realized something profound. He had spent his entire adult life building an empire, accumulating wealth, constructing walls, but the richest moment of his existence was this one, walking beside a woman who saw his flaws and chose him anyway. Heading toward a small apartment that would become a home, finally understanding that true wealth had nothing to do with money at all, the test was over. The real work was just beginning. And for the first time in his life, Julian Hartwell was exactly where he needed to be.